Okay, so as you know, there is a SAP MII administration menu access URL, and that URL contains that your HTTP or HTTPS. That might be your depending on the which protocol you are using, either the secure protocol HTTPS or HTTP. And colon and double slash is a fixed one, and after that the server and port. So server, it depends on that which server, data center or server IP your SAP MI has been installed, and what port actually it's open for SAP MI. Slash xmii slash menu.jsp. So this will be the URL to access your SAP MII administrator page, or you can say the menu layout.jsp page. And from there you can traverse to uh, the workbench as well. So this is your initial screen and initial URL to access SAP MII. And as soon as you will access SAP MII, you can see the content development inside that menu. And by inside the content development, you can open your SAP MII workbench. So I have listed down here that what all menu items it's consist inside the content development. So content development menu provides the access for SAP MI Workbench, or you can download some custom reports, as well as there is a custom action SDK, and configuring the NWDI configuration to use the source control. So sometimes it's required that suppose a particular action block is not there in SAP MII. So in that case, you can go for your new custom action block development, and that actually you need SDK. Okay, custom action SDK, the reference you need to use, and that actually you can download it from here inside the content. So I'm coming directly to SAP MI Workbench overview. So first of all, let's understand that how SAP MI Workbench look like. So, and what is the SAP MI Workbench? So SAP MI Workbench is an integrated development environment for developing and managing SAP MI development object. So here, this is one ID. Inside that you can create, update or delete your SAP MI objects. So first you can see there is a one. So I have also written here the new. So clicking on this new, you can create a new file, okay, and you can then give the name and you can save it. The second is that the load, the meaning is that already you have created any object and you want to load it, and it means you want to open it, so you can use the second one as the load. And third one, suppose you have already opened a BLS or any MI object and you want to save it, so you can click on save and it will save only the selected one. And after that there is a save as. So save as is mainly used, suppose there is one file or any object, SAP MI object you have created, and you want to save it with another name. Okay, so just in that case you can use the save as, and the same object will be saved, and you can provide some other name to save it. And here you can see there is a save all tab. Okay, so suppose you have opened a multiple tabs in SAP MI, multiple object in SAP MI. So you don't want to save it one by one. So in that case, you can directly click on save all. So all the tab has which has been opened, it means you can say all the objects that you have opened in SAP MII, that all will be saved one by one. You don't have to save click on the save for each of the object. Okay. Okay. And you can see here a delete button. So by using this delete button, you can delete any created object in SAP MI that you have selected. After that, there is a close. So close a button you can see, and that button is mainly used, suppose you have already opened one object in SAP MII. So you can click on this close button and it will be closed your object. It will not make any changes at the database level. Just it will it has been opened and it will close it. After that, you can see the close all. Suppose you have opened a multiple BLS or multiple queries or multiple objects that you have created in SAP MII, and that all you don't want to close one by one. If you want that, okay, whatever I have opened, I want to close all. So you can click on close all. So it will close one by one all the open objects. And after that, you can find a particular file in this folder structure anywhere in the project. Suppose there are multiple projects, you can do the search for a file by clicking on this find file option. After that, find next file. Also, you can use for finding the file after that as well. It means it will sequentially, it will search in a this project or file structure in the left hand side. So these two will be helpful when suppose something you want to search and you don't know that where it is in a folder structure. So that you can use the this find file or find next file. And this is your menu bar and this is your toolbar. And there are other options already. There is in the inside the file, it is tools and source control. So that I will come later. Source control will only be available here if you have integrated your SAP MI system with NWDI transport tool. Otherwise, the source control will not be visible here. So moving to next slide. So here you can see SAP MI development object can categorized in 4 categories. So just remember, whatever you are developing in SAP MI, whatever you are creating an object in SAP MI, that has been categorized in 4 categories only. So only these 4 categories you can create the objects. So whenever you will be creating the object, either one of the category, catalog, object, web or meta-inf. You cannot create any object in SAP MII that is not coming inside the catalog, object, web and meta-inf in a workbench. And each category is the placeholder of respective development components and object. So, and each tab, either is in the catalog, objects, web and meta-inf, it will contains the respective development object whatever you are creating. If we are creating an object in a catalog, it will be always in a catalog. It cannot find inside this object. So there are some objects are there that you can only create on catalog. You cannot mix it here in the workbench. So this categorization has been done by SAP itself. So if suppose the transaction you can only create in catalog tab itself. You cannot create inside the object, web and meta-inf. It shows the hierarchical structure of the development component. So, and SAP MI Workbench will show you all the hierarchical a structure for all the objects that you have created. So here if you will come, you can see there is a catalog, object, web and meta-inf. So these are the four categories in which you can categorize your old created development object. You cannot create any object beyond this. It might be there that you are creating some objects in catalog, some object in object tab, some object you are creating in web and meta-inf. So now I'm going that which type of object you can create in catalog, which type of object you will create in object tab, which type of object you can create in the web tab, and which type of object you can create in meta-inf. So now I'm going for that. So catalog. So catalog is where the business logic, query template, display template information can be saved. So whenever you have to write a business logic as a transaction, query template, display templates, so all these things are coming under your catalog tab. Okay. You cannot create all these object inside the object web and meta-inf. Each tab consists their own unique object, and that only you can create there. Coming to the object, so object, and it's where a developer can create their own object for MDO, KPI and alert. So inside the object tab you can only create the MDO. That I will come that what is the MDO, why we are using that. So there is another session for that. So we can create the MDO, manufacturing data object, or we can create the KPI as well in SAP MII, key performance indicator, and as well as you can generate the alert as well on the basis of the KPI value. So these three objects only you can create inside a object tab. So developer can define their object model and a specification in the section based on the development component. Okay, so what development component you are going to create, you should know which development component you can create in which tab. So this you should know uh, if you are working on the SAP MII. And there is another that is the web tab. So why we are using the web tab? So this is where the web coding like HTML, IRPT, UI5, HTML5, JavaScript, CSS, or any other UI technology you are going to use for your user interface, you have to store all these things in the web tab. You cannot store all this information inside a catalog or object. Apart from the UI component, text, image, PDF or XML file can also be stored inside the web tab. So if you have some images, some text files, that also you can store inside the web tab. Meta-inf. This is where the key configuration can be saved, like shared memory, project specific shared memory, roles. In other words, it's a store the project's metadata. If you want to store some configuration data, like suppose you want to create one shared memory or shared properties, and that you want to access in SAP MI, you can easily access, and that is the project level variable. So why actually we use the most useful share memory is when actually suppose you are working in a development environment, and there we need some URLs that you are calling from the third party development system. So now suppose your code has been moved to quality system, and quality system has its third party system again, and they have also the quality system. So you cannot call the same URL from the quality system. In that case, you can directly change your shared memory from menu.jst page itself. You don't have to come to the workbench and you have to change the value here. So It is very useful when you will be transporting your code from one environment to another environment and your variable value gets changed. Okay, so in that case, we can use the meta-inf as well as in the case of the roles also. Moving to the next, now I am coming that what is a project in SAP MII? Okay, so understand it clearly because these all are the building blocks for Workbench and you should know. So SAP MI project is the unique placeholder or logical container for SAP MI object known as the development component DC. So if you will go at the NetWeaver level, whatever the project you are creating, that is saved as a development component if you have been integrated with NWDS. So MI project is your unique placeholder or logical container for your SAP MI object. You cannot create a two project on the same server with same name. That name should be unique first of all, and that project will organize your all the MI object that you will be creating. So if you are creating one project, inside that you can create multiple folder and you can organize your all the developed objects. The second point is that SAP MI projects that need to be created under the server before starting the development. So SAP MI project is the mandatory object that need to be created before starting the development. You cannot do anything without creating a project. If you are not creating a project, you will not be able to create a single object in SAP MI. Okay, so whenever you will be creating a project, so project is your server level object. Okay, so you are creating on your server, you are creating the project on your SAP MI server. So that is a project is known as a server level object in SAP MI. So whenever a project is created in SAP MI, this is very important point, it will be visible in catalog, object, web, and web-inf tab. So whenever you will be create a project at the server level, the same project will be visible in catalog tab, web tab, object tab, web tab, and web-inf tab. So in all these four tabs, your project will be visible. So let me go back here. So suppose this is the sign for your project. Can you see the default? So all these signs that show that this is the project. And whenever you are creating a project, that always you are creating on the server level. Okay, the meaning of the server level that you are right clicking on the server that has been connected and then you are creating your MII project. So as soon as you will create a project in SAP MII, you open the catalog, that project name will be visible. If you will click on object, the same project name will be visible in object as well. If you clicked on the web tab, the same project name will be visible on the web tab as well. And if you will open the meta-inf, the same project name will be visible in meta-inf as well. So just remember, whenever you will be creating a project in SAP MII, the same project name will be available in all these four tabs. Okay, catalog, object, web, and meta-inf. Now, so we went through this project. So you got that what is the project and what is the importance of the project, right? Without project creation, you cannot start the development in SAP MI. This is the initial object that you need to create. If someone already created, you can use that. But if you are going for any development from scratch and there is no any project has been created in on the SAP MI server, you have to first create the project. Okay. So now I'm coming that type of project in SAP MI. So how many types of projects you can create in SAP MI? So there is a local project and there is a shared project. So local projects are created and stored locally. No version controlling is available for that. So what is the meaning of that? That no version controlling is available for that. The meaning is that suppose your SAP MI system is not integrated with any transport system like CTS Plus or NWDI. So these systems mainly used to transport your code from one environment to another environment, and it's also manage your version. If you are making any changes, so it will be storing it and making another version for that particular development object. So in that case, suppose you are not using any NWDI or CTS Plus for your version management, content management. So what will happen? Suppose I have created one transaction in SAP MII, and someone came and he will also be able to see that transaction, and he came and he had deleted that transaction. So what will happen? Will you able to recover that? No. You cannot recover that transaction because someone has deleted it. Okay, but if you are using your NWTI control here, so if someone will delete, first of all they have to create the activity, and after creating the activity only he will be able to delete. Okay, or someone is making any changes, they have to check it out, and then they have to make the changes and then they have to save. So as many times the developer will come and making some changes, one new version will be created, and anytime you can go for the previous version. But in the local project this option is not there. Directly someone has suppose you have created one transaction in SAP MII, and someone came that and they have deleted one action block from there and they have saved it. So it will be saved and now it will be visible to all. It means this transaction has been changed and this someone has deleted this. So after deleting whatever you will see the transaction, that will visible to everybody. You cannot restore that. So that all things is coming under the version controlling, but that will be not available if you are using the local project. And the share project is that if NWDI is connected to the SAP MII, it is possible to create a shared project basically when a project is created in a workbench. Okay, so what happened? Shared project only you can create when your SAP MI has been connected to the NWDI transport system. Otherwise, you cannot create the shared project in SAP MI. So whenever you will be creating a project, it will ask to choose the NWDI, and there actually it will create your project as a DC development component, and this development component will be transported from your development to quality and quality to production. So shared project, if you will see the shared project, the icon is different than your normal project. So here all are this project icon. Can you see here the yellow color icon inside that? So this is known as your shared project. It means there is a either this project has been deployed by SAP or you have shared it on your NWDI. So whenever, how to identify that your SAP MI system has been integrated with NWDI or not? So you can see here the source control tab. If your MI system is not integrated with NWDI, so here the source control tab will not be visible to you. Okay. So now coming to, okay, so you got there are two types of project you can create. One is the local project and one is the shared project. So now here is the actually categorization, what all object you can create at which level, okay, in which tab. So you can develop these object in Workbench. So these many types of object you can create in SAP MI Workbench. So first, actually, you need to create SAP MI project. So whenever you are creating SAP MI project, that will be at your server level object. Okay, it means you are creating on server, and it will be created as a development component. And BLS, whenever you are creating a BLS or business logic services, or you can say the transaction, query template and display templates. So all these three you can create only in a catalog tab. Okay. And after that, the MDO and KPI and alert. So these three objects you can create in your object tab only. So just I have categorized this, so anytime you can refer it. And web page. Web page, actually the meaning is it's consisting all the UI related things like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SAP UI5. So each and everything you can create in web tab only. And there is a shared property, suppose you have to create. So shared property you can create only in web INF tab. So I have categorized here that which object at which level you can create in SAP MII. But prerequisite for creating any object in SAP MI, you have to create SAP MI project at your server level. So these all are the theory part, but I will go to the workbench and I will show each and everything. So don't worry. And here the business logic services. So I'm coming to the business logic services known as the BLS, or you can say the transaction. So what it is? So business logic services is the heart of SAP MI to define, design and develop manufacturing logic graphically. So in SAP MI, business logic services provide ability where you can write a transaction, and inside the transaction you can write your logic, and that logic you will be writing in a graphical way. It means there is a sequence and actions, so that sequence and action will be visible as a graphics. Okay, that is not a free form code writing, so there is a graphical representation for the actions that you can use in SAP MI. So a BLS consists, whenever I am saying the BLS, you can consider as a transaction. So a BLS consists of sequence and action blocks. Okay. So one BLS, whenever you are creating, that will consist only a sequence and action block. So always remember, a BLS is a collection of sequence and action block. That's all. Only two things the BLS will keep. So now what is the sequence and what is the action? The sequence is the placeholder for action. So inside the BLS, you need to create the sequence, and that sequence is the placeholder for the action, and you can place your action inside the sequence. So SAP MI has a number of actions available for different purposes. So action is nothing but you can consider as a function that will take some input and it will give you some output. So I will, because of that, your BLS is only combination of two things, sequence and action. So sequence is just a placeholder. So now action is everything for you. So you need to learn about what all actions available in SAP MI and how it works, what is its functionality. So I will go almost all the action blocks and I will teach you how actually you can use it in your BLS and what it does. So just remember that a transaction is a combination of sequence and action only. And now, just a second. Okay. So actually, there are use cases for the BLS. Why the why the BLS will be used here. So BLS you can use to for the data extraction and transformation load. The meaning is that you can use the BLS, in which that BLS you can extract the data from the databases, you can transform it, and you can send it to the third party system as well. So these are some application for the SAP MI BLS, where you can write the logic. So you can automated or manual data collection also you can perform by using the BLS, business logic. So for all the tasks you need to write the logic, and that all logic that you can write in SAP MII only. So production execution, tracking and monitoring. So all these things actually you can achieve by using a BLS. Application to application integration, including two-way ERP integration, you can use BLS. So whenever something is required to write a logic, you can use SAP MII BLS there. Okay. So like that, there is a query template. So that is the BLS and query template. So what is the query template? A query template is used to retrieve, insert, delete, and update the data using configured data server. So what is the data server? Data server is that actually you are making some connection to the database or any other third party system. So by using the data server, if you have created one data server of type IDBC in SAP MII, so you can write the SQL query on top of that. Okay. So query template is not limited to only SQL query. A query template is mainly used to interact with the third party system, that might be your source system, from which you can retrieve the data, insert the data, delete the data, and update the data. So SQL query is coming under your query template, aggregate query coming under your query template, OLAP query, PICO query, MDO query, SQL query, tag query, execute query, XML query, catalog query, KPI query. So all these query is coming under your query template only. So we will go with this query templates that is mostly used, and we will see in a system how you can use the query template. Okay. Query template can be used in MI transaction and can be called directly from the web pages. So here the two things, whatever the query template, suppose you have written SQL query. So that SQL query you can directly call in your MI transaction, as well as if you need to call it from some web technology like SAP UI5, you can call it directly from SAP UI5, whatever the SQL query you have written in SAP MI. So transaction or query you can call directly from SAP EY5 or any other web technologies as well. The mostly is the query is the SQL, MDO query, PICO query, XML query or tag query to fetch the data from external source system except MDO. So except MDO is that because that MDO is the part of your MI database itself. And execute query is used to convert transaction in a query template. So sometimes it's happens, suppose you have written a business logic transaction and you want to convert that transaction into the query template. So you can do by using the execute query. You can write the execute query and now you can use your transaction as execute query. So that is the main use of the execute query. It means you are transferring your, you are converting your transaction as a query. Okay, so for the MDO actually, what is the time? Okay, so for MDO actually, let me explain a little bit here only this MDO, what actually it is. So can you see this